just been so kind to come today and talk to us about his role in the Declaration of Independence and, of course, the Constitution, because he was one of the few men that signed both documents. And so Mrs. Franklin is here with us today, and so he will have a question and answer session after he comes in, but we just feel so honored to have him and ask him a lot of hard questions.
Okay, hello 76ers. We need all these people standing back. Please take a seat. We will need audience participation, so please don't be shy, don't stand back. Absolutely, there's plenty of room up here. Come on up, don't be shy. Come on, there we go. Yes, that's much better. We need to fill the pews. Feel like you are in a church. Perfect. Excellent. Well, I'm here to kind of bring a teleporting job, sort of. So, I'm here actually to introduce your favorite founding father. A man who is an author, diplomat, inventor, and an unapologetic party animal. You didn't know that, did you? Well, he's the man who gave us bifocals, who gave us electricity, and an essay for the Royal Academy of Brussels on how to make a passing gas smell better. Also, you may know him by his pseudonym, Silent Dogood. Have you heard that before? Well, he's famous for that. Or the handsome man on a $100 bill, or an icon who said, "Nothing's certain in this world except death and taxes." There we go. Please welcome our time traveler, Dr. Benjamin Franklin. He may need some help. He's a little old, 320 years. Right here. So he needs a little assistance now and then. Would you like one of these things, Dr. Franklin?
Hi, friends. My fellow time travelers, don't laugh. My fellow Americans, happy 250th birthday. My name is Benjamin Franklin. You might have heard of me. Yeah, I was the guy who flew that kite in the thunderstorm. Remember that? That was something, wasn't it? That was something. Yeah, I did a lot of science stuff. But I did other things as well. I don't like to brag. But I published Poor Richard's Almanac. I established the first circulating library in this country. I established the first volunteer fire department. I also founded an institution of higher learning that became the University of Pennsylvania. And his battery's going to run down. You know, when you go to charge that battery, I want you to know that I invented charge and battery in the way you use it today. I also founded a little organization called the Junta. It was a bunch of young men, and sometimes women, who like to sit around and debate politics, pursue truth, serve the community, and then go out drinking and brag about it. And I also like to think, in the meantime, I helped found this wonderful country that you have here today. In my time, it was considered a little bit of an audacious idea. It was a dangerous experiment. I mean, it was a very how dangerous was it? Maybe a little background will help. I was born January 17th in 1706. January 17th, 1706. You guys do some math. I grew up helping my father make candles and my brother in his printing business. And as an adult, like almost everybody else, all my contemporaries, I was loyal to the crown. I thought that a close association with the British monarchy and the colonies was good for the colonies, it was good for the crown. They protected us, we provided for it, it was all good. I was a true loyalist. We called ourselves loyalists at the time. Also, like many of my contemporaries, I owned slaves. It saddens me now, of course, to confess that. In my lifetime, I enslaved other human beings. Gradually, I grew disillusioned. Gradually, I grew disillusioned about slavery. I knew slavery couldn't last. So during my lifetime, I spent many years away from the colonies. A lot of time in London, working on issues with the British Crown. And during and after the Revolutionary War, I spent time in France. So I was pretty well traveled. I was well known in circles, the party circles. People knew who I was. But you know, many in the European aristocracy at that time thought this idea of the colonies somehow breaking away, organizing themselves in some way, and becoming a new nation, a new country, almost comical. The Crown Court in London thought it was so unlikely they needn't even worry about it at the time. It was a useless notion. That always reminds me when I remember that. About the time I was in France at the site of a brand new innovation. Kind of like a new country. This was a hot air balloon, the first hot air balloon, rising up in the sky. It was an amazing sight. And an observer in the crowd, he asked me, he said, "That's amazing." He said, "But what use is it?" I looked at him and I said, "What use is a newborn baby?" Anyway, what use is a newborn baby? All right, after years in London, spending in London, of trying to keep the relationship between the colonies and the crown in place. We brought over and over our complaints to the crown, the British crown, and they ignored them. Finally, it came, many of us came to the revelation that we were not going to normalize that relationship. We were too far afield. We weren't held in very much esteem. And so what were we going to do? And the idea of a new country started to emerge based on our situation. A new country, we were a couple of small colonies orbiting the planet out here far from the crown. We knew that founding a new nation wouldn't be easy. Winning independence from Great Britain would not be easy. None of us had ever built a new nation before. How do you do that? What do you need? What do you need if you're going to be a new country, a new nation? Well, one thing you're going to need is a standing army. In the colonies, we didn't have a professional army. They did in Great Britain. They had the finest professional military on the planet. So what were we going to do? We needed a standing army. Well, what we did have, we had some of the finest marksmen in the universe. Well, we need a standing army. We're going to need a constitution. Why? To show how to govern ourselves and show the world how we're going to govern ourselves. And we needed foreign allies. My good friend Thomas Jefferson and I worked very hard on that throughout the war and after the war, before we had a constitution, to try to bring allies into our circle. And We needed a birth announcement. We needed a declaration. We needed a declaration to the world explaining how our intentions and our solidarity arose from the complaints we had about the crown, and justifying the most profound civil act that you can perform, and that's taking up arms against your sovereign. So on May 10th, 1775, do your math, the Second Continental Congress, consisting of delegates from all the 13 colonies, convened in Philadelphia, and as part of our work, we developed our first governing document, which was the Articles of Confederation, which helped rule our country throughout the Revolutionary War and for a decade thereafter. As part of our work, we drafted that, and we approved the idea that we needed this declaration, something to tell the world what we're doing here, explain why we're taking this extreme, this ultra-extreme step. We needed somebody to explain to the world that this is just not another uprising in some distant colony that none of Europe has to worry about. That it was more than just a little bit of a, it's not just an uprising. This was a bona fide revolution, and we needed a document that could bring that idea forward to the world so that we could get foreign allies, so that we could continue to build an army. The Continental Congress had all the delegates of 13 colonies, too many people to really work on it. They appointed a committee of 5, the famous committee of 5. I know you've all heard of us. Well, it was me, representing Pennsylvania, Roger Sherman from Connecticut. It was Robert R. Livingston from New York, the incredible John Adams from Massachusetts, and my very, very, very good friend, Thomas Jefferson from Virginia. We were tasked with stating the considerations that brought us to this point, the complaints that we have in terms of the relationship with the crown, and what we wanted to become. We needed something explaining to the world how we felt and where we were going. As the 5 of us started, that committee of 5, we were working. As we started working on it, it was obvious that we couldn't just sit around talking about this for another 2 weeks. So we appointed Thomas Jefferson, sent him off with all the stuff that we've been talking about, told him to draft us up something nice. Ladies with me? So he went off, and Jefferson, he could talk forever, sort of like any member of the Piercey clan, if you haven't noticed that already. But he could write. He could write. Well, Mr. Jefferson he brought an incredible draft to the committee. We had a few corrections. One, I think, I'm sort of proud of, since it was mine. Mr. Jefferson had written the document with and you're all familiar with the document, but he had the following phrase in it. He said, "We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable, that all men are created equal." We had this conversation about how it's the priests and the popes who ordain the kings that we are trying to escape from. We did not want a country that relied on some religious sect or some movement or some priest or pope to derive their authority from above. Instead, we suggested the following wording: "We hold these truths to be self-evident." No one can argue with self-evidence. I don't care which religious sect you like to be in. Self-evident is self-evident. That all men are created equal. The committee approved it, and it got folded in. So, when my colleagues and I signed the Declaration of Independence, how many years ago was that, ladies? How many years ago did I sign the Declaration of Independence?
1776.
That's right. 250 years ago. 250 years ago, I was sitting in a room, and we were trying to get everybody to sign that document, and I don't know if you've ever been in a political discussion before, but you know, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to get everybody on the same. So finally we got it signed. We published our Declaration of Independence, and 250 years later, look at you now. Look at you now. I must say, I heard the Constitution mentioned earlier, and a decade later, I was already an old man when I signed it. I was the oldest guy there when we signed the Declaration. 10 years later, I was also the oldest guy there when we signed the Constitution. After the second Constitutional Convention, we were walking out, proud of ourselves, exhausted, and the entire citizenry in the colonies were on pins and needles. There's a bunch of old guys up there in that building in Philadelphia, and they're writing up all the rules that are going to drive our lives from here on. What are they doing up there? One thing they didn't want was them to come back with something so milquetoast and watery, it couldn't hold anything together. You needed a strong enough government, central government, to hold the colonies tightly together. The other thing they didn't want was the Constitution was so strong that the central government usurped the power from the people, and you got a king again. That's a waste of time. That's just where we're coming from. So on the way out, we were walking out, and a group of citizens walked up to us. One of them was Elizabeth Willing Powell. She was an activist at the time. She's always had her fingers in everything. She comes up to my colleagues and I, and she says, Doctor, she liked to call me Doctor, Dr. Franklin, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy? I looked around at her group and I said, a republic if you can keep it. I wanted the citizens to know that completely different than a monarchy. You know what you got to do to keep a monarchy going? Nothing. The people don't got to do nothing to keep the monarchy healthy and going. A republic is completely different. If in your head, and I think that's what we all mean by a republic, is a republic is an organization that is ruled by the citizens, by its people. If you wanted a republic, it's not self-correcting, it's not self-sustaining, its survival requires on the active, ongoing participation of the citizens. Democratic republics never collapse from a lack of technology or wealth. You will always have the tools, the weapons, the money. And while they can be conquered and overrun, they almost always more often crumble from a decay of civic virtue. In a democracy, the work is never over. Well, you guys are getting bored, aren't you? I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to have you help me do an experiment. Will you do that? Yeah. All right. So let me show them these things first. Who knows what that is?
String.
What kind of string? Think about who you're talking to here. You're dang right. This is kite string, but this is very special kite string. You've never seen kite string like this before. Nobody has. All right? And, well, you can start. You can get your helper right there on the end.
Yes.
And we're going to run this. I've impregnated this string with copper. So it might feel a little heavier than you expect. And so it is highly conductive to electricity. All right, there's this line is going to go down the second row here. And come on. You see what she just did? You got to do the same thing. You got to see the string here. You know, you got to tie this around his little finger and then stretch it all the way to the back. All right.
Very tight. All right.
I wanted to do an experiment for you today, but I didn't want to do anything fancy, so I brought with me from Philadelphia.
Hopefully this will stay.
You've probably never seen one of these things before.
Okay.
These are so
You hold on
modern,
to it,
this
don't
is,
let it go.
only I have one.
All right.
Now this is a thingamajigger. Ah, there we go. I gotta try to remember, is that up or down on the thingamajigger, you know?
You good?
I'm gonna follow it now then. Okay. Now then, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Feed me some wire. Feed me some wire. Get the other side. Feed it up. Here we go. You see how heavy that copper is? All right, so first thing I got to do with this, I got to tell you what's going to happen so you're not surprised by anything. You probably already know what I'm doing, right? You'd be the only one in the room because I don't know what I'm doing. No, that's a joke. No one ever dies, almost no one ever dies from this experiment. Now then, we're going to attach it to these electrodes up here. Now then. Now hook it on your little finger. Because, yeah. All right. So now, I'm going to hook up this kite string that is impregnated with copper flakes to make it conductive, and there, we tie knots here too. All right, here we go. Get up here, a little bit further, and now we're going to learn how to convert psychic energy into electrical energy. But it's a very small effect, so you're going to have to really focus hard. And we're going to need practically everybody. So look, if you're not on the aisle holding the string, and I don't want to see any of this stuff, grab that string and hold it. I'm going to have to feel the current. If you're not on the aisle, just reach over and hold a hand with the next guy so that whole electricity, you know, is everybody gets to share in the responsibility of burning the church down today. All right. Now, here's the deal. I've got the other end of this thing. I've got the other end of this thingamajigger, and I'd like to explain exactly how this, whatchamacallit works, but Al would be the only person in the room that would understand a word, I'd say. You know, they tell me he's a bona fide thingamajigger expert. I'm assuming that goes without question.
I play one on TV.
But you play one. Anyway, the other end of this thing is tied to another wire out the back, to a rod buried in the ground. Kind of like a lightning rod, you know. And by the way, I invented that too. All right, come on. All right, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to throw a little switch down here.
You need some help, Dr. Frankenstein?
Frankenstein.
Don't do it.
No, I don't get around as good as I used to.
That's Frankenstein.
No. All right. I mean, this is going to... Are you guys willing to concentrate?
Yeah.
All right, no. All right, here. So, here's what's going to happen. When I turn this on, it's going to take a while to build up the static electricity. And you might start feeling a little tiny buzzing in your hand. Or you might, a crackling. Or your hair might start, you know... But I want you to focus. And if you'll watch real closely, you see this dial right here? There's a dial there. If you watch very closely, you got to concentrate really hard. You might even see some little sparking going on here. I don't know, because I'm not sure how this thing works, actually. Anyway, so when you start feeling that little buzzing in your hand, don't let go. Just concentrate harder and harder. And you'll have to be kind of quiet in order to hear the crackling, but you'll start hearing it crackling, you'll start seeing it flicker, and it'll start going over there. So, are you guys ready? Good talk. Now we got it. All right, here we go. Look out. Now, here we go. All right, here we go. There we go. All right, I'm just going to give you a 5 for the time being. I don't want to go to a 10 too soon. All right, here we go. How's it going? Wait a minute.
Anything?
Wait a minute. I hear some crackling. You feel it? How come your hair is starting to stand up? I think you're feeling it. It's going. Shh. Going. Okay. Wind up a string. Hey, look.
What happened? What happened?
Nobody's hair is on fire. Yours is standing up a little bit, but I think you might have gotten a little bit. But nobody's hair is on fire. Nobody's hair is standing straight. Well, some of you do have hair that stands straight, but that may be a natural thing down here. Our electrical experiment has been a failure. Total failure. But that's okay. My lovely wife, just bring the string all forward.
Oh.
You don't have to.
Okay.
So,
Here we go.
that's okay. When society does science well, experiments fail. Happens all the time. That's the way we do science. This is science.
Thank you for my help.
In science, we fail, we learn, and then we try again. But our American experiment must not fail. We're not in a laboratory where we can try again. We don't get another chance. We may never have another chance. The experiment in democracy is 250 years old, but it is not guaranteed. It can fail, it can yet fail, and as you well know, if you've read my almanac on a regular basis, divided, we will fall. There's no question about it. Looking back, it was division that almost scuttled the Declaration of Independence itself. Because once we got it written, we still had holdouts that just weren't happy with it. Oh, you didn't list the grievance I had. You know, down here in the Carolinas, we got these kind of grievances. Well, up here in New York, we have these kind of grievances. Over there in Pennsylvania, this is the way the kings are. We love these tea parties down over here. Divided we will fall, and it almost sank the Declaration. Later, it was division that made constitutional ratification so difficult to get everybody to sign on a constitution. Of course, like on the Declaration, some people were anxious to sign and some people were reluctant, but it was division that almost scuttled that. Even later, Civil War, it was division that almost tanked this country again. I am 320 years old. I heard everybody else bragging about their age. You know, pretty good shape for 320. And I have always thought, as I've published in Poor Richards on a number of times, that life's tragedy is that we get old too soon and wise too late. We gave you a republic, if you can keep it. Keeping it requires more than the heroic acts of a few. It requires daily, quiet virtue in every ordinary citizen. It requires helping your neighbor, seeking truth over confirmation, choosing cooperation and compromise over division. Our Constitution was not a perfect document. It is not a perfect document. Compromise is the way we got there. It is simply a document with page after page of compromising. That's the way republics are governed. That's the way democracy works. Compromise, somehow, I'm not sure we remember what it means. Compromise is not something negative and the last resort. Compromise is, in fact, the very soul of a democracy. If you want one, learn to compromise. When we compromise, we are not surrendering principles. That's not what compromise is about. As I wrote in a letter at the Constitutional Convention, we must all approach our public lives with a degree of humility, recognizing that our opponents may sometimes be right, and that we ourselves may sometimes be mistaken. If we've lost that skill set, if we've lost that ability, we certainly have lost this country. Now I've got to get back to Philadelphia. Boo. Oh, wait a minute. And you have to get back to work. Compromising, collaborating, and communicating to make the dream of another 250 years come true. Thank you all very much.